In the early 90s, one name echoed through bedrooms, arcades and playgrounds.
Sega!
Hey! You still don't have a Sega CD? What are you waiting for? Nintendo to make one? You have seen the games, right? Wrong answer, man. Show 'em! Want to see more?
Sega wasn't just a company, it was a movement, a pixel-powered rebellion against the status quo. But somewhere between the screaming and the scheming, things got weird. Add-ons stacked like Lego bricks. A handheld that ate batteries for breakfast. A console that launched too early and died too young. This is the story of Sega, the rise, the roar, and the crash. So grab your controller, we're going in. Before Sonic, before the Genesis, Sega was already a giant in the world of entertainment. The 1970s weren't about pixels yet, they were about lights, sounds, and mechanical magic. Games like Periscope and Gunfight weren't just amusements, they were spectacles. These electromechanical cabinets drew crowds with flashing lights, booming sound effects, and the thrill of simulated combat. But as the 1980s dawned, the industry shifted. Video games took center stage. Titles like Space Invaders proved the future was digital, and Sega was quick to adapt. Their hit Zaxxon stunned players with isometric graphics that felt like a leap into the third dimension. Then came the showstoppers. Outrun put players behind the wheel of a Ferrari, complete with a steering wheel and rumbling seat. Afterburner strapped you into a fighter jet cockpit that actually moved with your maneuvers. These weren't just games, they were experiences no home console could dream of matching. By the mid-80s, Sega arcades were everywhere, from Tokyo's neon-lit game centers to American malls and European seaside resorts. Sega wasn't just competing, they were defining what the arcade could be. This success didn't go unnoticed. In 1969, Sega was acquired by Gulf and Western, the same conglomerate that owned Paramount Pictures. But by the early 1980s, Japanese investors bought Sega back, recognizing the creative and financial potential of video games. This move ensured Sega's momentum continued into its golden years. The golden age of the arcade cemented Sega's reputation as a fearless innovator. But as we'll see, the same boldness that made them kings of the arcade would later lead them into risky territory in the home console wars. July 15th, 1983, Sega enters the home console market with the SG-1000, a bold move with unfortunate timing.
カセットインでキューバート、ガズラーなどなどソフトはいろいろ一家に一台
Released on the exact same day as Nintendo's Famicom, the SG-1000 was instantly outclassed. Limited RAM, no scrolling backgrounds, and a clunky controller meant Sega's debut was already playing catch-up. But Sega wasn't done. In 1985, they launched the Mark III, later rebranded as the Sega Master System.
This Christmas you can buy another toy. Or you can buy this. The Sega Master System of Entertainment, with super-sensitive control pads and a pinpoint accurate light phaser that even registers misses. The unique Sega card with 256K memory and even more. Our mega cartridge with an unbelievable 4 times more power than most cartridges. It's a future of excitement. The Sega Master System of Interactive Video Entertainment.
This wasn't just a redesign, it was a technological leap. With sharper visuals, more colors, and a built-in pause button, the Master System was technically superior to the NES. But in North America, specs weren't enough. Nintendo had locked down third-party developers with ironclad exclusivity deals. Sega couldn't get the big names, and retailers were hesitant to stock a challenger. But outside the US, Sega found its groove. In Europe, the Master System outsold the Nintendo Entertainment System. In Brazil, it became a cultural icon, still sold today by Tectoy. And in Australia, Sega ruled the living room. The Master System didn't win the war, but it proved Sega could fight, and it laid the groundwork for a new challenger, one that would scream its name into gaming history. In 1988, Sega dropped the Mega Drive in Japan. A year later, it hit North America as the Genesis, and with it, Sega declared war. Sega's American team, led by Tom Kalinske, didn't just market a console, they built a brand. Edgy, loud, rebellious.
I heard Matt got a Sega Genesis.
Well, I guess one more is okay.
Genesis does what Nintendo don't wasn't just a slogan, it was a challenge.
16-bit arcade graphics.
You can't do this on Nintendo. Genesis does.
16-bit sports action.
You can't do this on Nintendo. Genesis
Does.
Genesis
Does.
Genesis
Does.
Genesis
Does.
Genesis does.
Get Joe Montana free, Pat Riley free, Buster Douglas free, Super Monaco GP free, or Collins free. What Nintendo?
Then came Sonic. A blue blur with attitude, sneakers, and a smirk. Sonic wasn't just fast, he was cool. Sonic the Hedgehog launched in 1991 and instantly became Sega's answer to Mario, and a pop culture icon. Sega hyped its tech with terms like blast processing, a phrase that meant almost nothing, but sounded like everything.
The Sega Genesis has blast processing. Super Nintendo doesn't. So what's blast processing do? And what if you don't have blast processing?
The Genesis was faster, sleeker, and aimed squarely at teens. While Nintendo centered violence, Sega leaned in. Mortal Kombat on Genesis had blood. NBA Jam and Madden NFL gave players the sports realism they craved.
28! Hut! 44! Hut!
Sega wasn't just for kids, it was for everyone who wanted more. For a moment, Sega was winning. In North America and the UK, the Genesis outsold the Super Nintendo. Sega had momentum, swagger, and a library of hits. But the battle was far from over. Nintendo's deeper library and global reach would eventually reclaim the throne. But for a few glorious years, Sega was the champion of the 16-bit world.
Oh, whoa, 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 whoa! Mamma mia! Don't use Formula One race cars when chasing hedgehogs. Or too slow.
By the mid-90s, Sega wasn't just selling consoles. They were selling a lifestyle. Sonic had leapt from cartridge to cartoon, from controller to comic book. Sega was everywhere. They brought in celebrities. Michael Jackson moonwalked into arcades. Joe Montana threw pixel-perfect passes. Sega was courting older players, and it was working.
Baseball is my life. Gotta start Oz. Hot hitter.
Game time, Tommy.
I'm on my way. Hit away.
Bases loaded, Tommy. What do we do?
Bunt. Shift over. Dead full hitter. Double play. What a game. And even my friend Arnie's got a great game. And I get a kick out of soccer and new basketball.
Game's over, Tommy.
Ain't over till it's over.
But behind the scenes, Sega was getting nervous. The Genesis was aging, so they bet big on the Sega CD, a bulky add-on promising cinematic gameplay and CD quality sound.
CD. Imagine a machine with over 500 megabytes of power, used only for games play. 2 16-bit processors and enough capacity to use real film imagery and CD quality sound. Add a Mega CD and turn your Mega Drive into a monster. When you bought that Mega Drive, you bought your ticket to ride. It's coming, so get tooled up. Blow your mind with the ultimate peripheral to your Mega Drive. Only the Mega CD can give you such awesome games play. I am your passport to the future.
The results, mixed at best. Full-motion video games looked futuristic.
A teeming mass of 4 million souls trying to survive, mostly off of each other.
Welcome to the sewers, punk. The guy you're replacing, he had that same tough guy smirk on his face that you do. Till he hit the wall. They're out there now, blotting him up with handy wipes.
Until you played them. Grainy video, clunky controls, and sky-high prices left players cold. And who remembers Night Trap? Few video games have incited as much controversy and debate as Night Trap, a 1992 interactive movie game utilizing full-motion video technology. Night Trap was revolutionary for blending live-action footage with interactive gameplay, but it swiftly became infamous in the United States for its alleged depiction of violence and its role in political debates about video game morality. GamePro's review acknowledged the game's novelty and production value, citing the impressive video sequences, but ultimately lambasted the thin gameplay, suggesting that players would tire quickly due to its repetitive nature. Sega Power's review panned the acting and script, calling it cringeworthy, but noted that the novelty of watching and influencing a movie was irresistible to some segments of players.
Things are getting really weird around here. Keep your eyes open and watch out for the other girls. I'll be right back.
Then came the 32X.
Sega has the games. What else do you need, man?
All my friends play Sega.
Sega! Face, man, it's in your head, you're sucked in.
By 1994, Sega was riding high on the Genesis. But instead of focusing on the next big leap, they tried to stretch the old hardware one more time. Enter the Sega 32X, a mushroom-shaped add-on that promised to turn your Genesis into a 32-bit powerhouse. On paper, it sounded exciting. Arcade-style graphics, 3D polygons, and big names like Doom and Virtua Racing. But the timing? A disaster. Whilst Sega North America pushed the 32X as a cheaper way to achieve 32-bit gaming without buying a full-price console, they were at odds with Sega Japan, which was developing the Saturn. The result? Confusion. Just months after the 32X hit shelves, Sega announced the Saturn, their true 32-bit console. Suddenly, the 32X wasn't a bridge to the future. It was a dead end. And this was the problem. Sega's own momentum was pulling it apart. Multiple hardware teams, overlapping launches, and too many devices competing for attention. The Genesis wasn't sleek anymore. It was a Frankenstein tower of bolt-ons. Gamers were confused. Developers were frustrated. The 32X ended up with fewer than 40 games, thin third-party support, and just 800,000 units sold worldwide. For many, it became the symbol of Sega's overreach. The 32X didn't fail because it was weak, it failed because Sega was sprinting in every direction at once. And when you chase every future, you risk losing the present. In late 1994, Sega launched the Saturn in Japan. At first, it looked like a triumph. Virtua Fighter was a smash hit, and early sales were strong. Sega seemed poised to dominate the next generation. But under the hood, the Saturn was a beast. Dual CPUs, multiple processors, and a design built for 2D powerhouses. Impressive on paper, but a nightmare for developers. Compared to Sony's sleek, developer-friendly PlayStation, the Saturn was a puzzle few wanted to solve. Then came E3 in 1995. Sega stunned the industry by announcing the Saturn was available immediately for North America. 4 months ahead of schedule, retailers weren't ready, developers weren't ready, and consumers, they were confused. Sony pounced. The PlayStation launched with a clear message, a lower price, and a tidal wave of third-party support. Sega's head start evaporated overnight. The Saturn had gems, nights into dreams.
Like Sega Saturn's nights. Never been a game that's allowed you to fly, fluid and free, in real-time 3D. Never, not anywhere. But especially not on that other system. Simply because, with only one processor, it doesn't have the power to do it. Fly, plaything, fly. You're not ready. Sega!
Panzer Dragoon, Virtua Fighter 2. But without a proper Sonic game, Sega's mascot was missing in action, and without Sonic, the Saturn lacked its killer edge. In the end, the Saturn sold just 9 million units worldwide, far behind Sony and Nintendo. What was meant to be Sega's crowning achievement became a cautionary tale. The Saturn didn't just sink, it dragged Sega's reputation down with it. For Sega, the Saturn was more than a misstep. It was the beginning of the end.
Buy Sega Saturn now, and while supplies last, we'll give you 3 top-selling arcade games free. That's Virtua Cop, Daytona USA, and Virtua Fighter 2. $189 value, free.
In 1999, Sega made one last daring play for the future. The Dreamcast wasn't just another console, it was a revolution.
We got her!
Hi, Randy.
Well, hello.
It's thinking.
Built-in online play, a quirky interactive memory card called the VMU, and graphics that looked like they'd been ripped straight out of the arcade. The launch lineup was dazzling. Sonic Adventure gave Sega's mascot a bold 3D makeover.
Step aside, Amy! Out of my way!
No! This robot is my friend! He helped me!
Soul Calibur redefined fighting games with fluid animation. Shenmue promised a living, breathing world years ahead of its time. And Jet Set Radio turned heads with its stylish cel-shaded art. In North America, Sega's marketing team went all in. The Dreamcast's September 9th, 1999 launch was a cultural event, moving over 500,000 units in just 2 weeks. For a moment, it looked like Sega was back on top. But beneath the surface, Sega was still bleeding from the Saturn years. Money was tight, and cracks began to show. The absence of EA Sports was devastating. No Madden, no FIFA. For millions of players, that was a deal-breaker. Third-party support was thin, and despite its clever design, its gigabyte disk read-only memory format was vulnerable to piracy. Hackers discovered that Dreamcast could boot games from standard CDs using a loophole in the MILCD format, originally intended for multimedia discs. This allowed pirated games to be burned and played without modification, severely impacting software sales. Then came Sony. The PlayStation 2 wasn't just a console. It was a DVD player, a multimedia hub, and the heir to the PlayStation's massive library. Anticipation for the PS2 crushed the Dreamcast's momentum almost overnight. Despite selling over 9 million units and earning critical acclaim, the Dreamcast couldn't survive. In March 2001, Sega announced the end. Dreamcast production would cease, and Sega would leave the hardware business forever. The Dreamcast was Sega's last, greatest gamble. A console ahead of its time, but out of time. Its dazzling dawn ended in doom, closing the book on Sega's hardware legacy.
Sega CD workout.
By 2001, Sega's time as a console maker had come to an end. The Dreamcast was discontinued, and Sega announced it would become a third-party publisher. It was a shocking twist. Sonic, once Nintendo's fiercest rival, was suddenly appearing on Nintendo consoles. Sega's creativity lived on, but now as a software powerhouse rather than a hardware innovator. Franchises like Yakuza, Total War, and Persona through Atlas proved the company could still shape the industry.
The shadows are actually here!
Sega's DNA, its boldness, its style, its willingness to take risks never disappeared. But Sega's legacy isn't just in games, it's in the culture. The playground debates of Sonic versus Mario, the unforgettable Sega scream, the risks that sometimes failed but always pushed the industry forward.
Tonight on Sega TV, garbage! But on interactive TV, you can get rid of it!
The rise and fall of Sega's consoles is a story of brilliance and overreach, of dazzling innovation and painful missteps. But it's also a story of resilience. Sega may have left the hardware stage, but its spirit continues to inspire gamers around the world. From the Master System to the Dreamcast, Sega's journey was wild, messy, and unforgettable. And maybe that's why we still talk about it today, not just as history, but as legend. This has been The Rise and Fall of Sega. Thanks for watching, and please hit the like button and be sure to subscribe for more content.